Hello and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World. My name is Skaya. No deal, no missiles, and a lot more questions than answers. The highly anticipated Trump-Zelenskyy meeting in Washington ended without progress on tomahawk missiles, leaving Ukraine uneasy. Now, with a high-stakes Trump-Putin summit looming in Budapest, uncertainty is rising fast in Ukraine and across Europe. Joining me now to discuss this further is Yevheniia Kravchuk, the Deputy Chair of the Ukrainian Committee on Humanitarian and Information Policy. Good morning, Yevheniia. So happy to have you with us here on World Talks this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Now, it's been quite the Friday and quite the meeting between Zelensky and Trump. Yevheniia, tell us about the reactions coming out of Ukraine regarding that meeting at the White House. Essentially, Zelensky ultimately left empty-handed, failing to secure those tomahawks from Trump. And do tell us, why do you believe Trump held back from giving Ukraine those military aid requests?
Well, obviously, Trump sees tomahawk as a diplomatic tool right now, not something that he is right now, this week is willing to give Ukraine. Basically, these and also all of the talks about sanctions, especially sanctions on the countries who are buying Russian oil and gas, are signals to Putin to come back to actual talks and possible negotiations. Because we saw that after Alaska summit, what Putin did, he just bombed Ukraine, and now they're trying to destroy the energy infrastructure. So Ukrainians will be in darkness and without heat this winter. So basically, it's a push to return to the diplomatic solution. What was good in Trump's reaction after the meeting is that he demands the unconditional ceasefire. And Ukraine was ready for the unconditional ceasefire for months, more than half a year. And it's the problem, again, is Russian Federation that are not stopping, trying to occupy more land, which is not really successful, but also bombing civilian infrastructure.
Let me ask you, how damaging, though, was this outcome for Zelensky, both, at home, domestically, and internationally? What do you think?
I think that, at least in Ukraine, we somewhat now, are less in these emotional ups and downs with Trump's reactions. We're getting used to it, and we understand that it has to be persistent and long-term game, if you put that. And actually, again, in this rhetoric, Ukraine has more cards because we are producing more and more weapons ourselves. Ukraine can produce up to 26 million of drones next year, and actually is ready to share this technology with our partners in Europe, but also in United States. And Trump also mentioned that U.S. Army would like to have some of the technologies that Ukrainians are developing, because it's the everyday war and it's battle tested, proved, and so on and so forth. Now, also we have the partnership in the investment, and we will have first deals in the rare earth minerals after the signing of the investment partnership and investment deal. And also we have the Pearl Initiative with the other NATO allies actually buying American weapon for Ukraine, and of course U.S. is willing to sell American weapons, so that makes it more stable. But again, we do not see that Putin wants peace. Every night we get Shaheds, we get missiles, so it has to be a stronger push for Russia. And actually Russia is in a vulnerable position. The economy is shattered. We see that three biggest oil and gas companies have the debt of Russia, have the debt of total $152 billion. If you see month to month, the exports of oil, gas, and the products they made out of oil is decreasing. And per se, it's the decrease into the money floating to Russian war chest.
Yevheniia, you said a lot of interesting things. Just a little previously, you mentioned, how Trump emphasizes unconditional, right, ceasefire that he would like to see. Let me ask you this: do you think the lack of agreement, though, between Zelensky and Trump at the White House actually increases the risk of Ukraine being, in a way, pressured into a ceasefire on unfavorable terms for Ukraine?
I cannot say it's unfavorable, because if you compare the first meeting in the Oval House and the Oval Office and the meetings that happened afterwards, and also the contracts being signed, the Pearl Initiative, again, the investment deal, it's looking much more long-term partnership between Ukraine and America than before, and it's also important. But of course, it's much easier to pressure Ukraine to sign the capitulation than pressure Putin to come to reality and have the realistic end of the war. Actually, that will be realistically on the ground, because again, we see these leaks in the press saying that he was returning to the idea that he needs to get the whole Donbas region, which hasn't been occupied for more than 11 years by the means of his own army. So basically, he wants to have this present for himself, which is, of course, unacceptable, as any legal acknowledgement of the annexation of all of the, Crimea and other occupied territories is also unacceptable.
Yevheniia, let me put you in this scenario. If that phone call between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin didn't take place just a day before Zelensky and Trump met, and what you're seeing on screen there now, do you think that Trump would have actually reacted differently or responded differently to Zelensky, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, we cannot change the past, right? So it's really difficult to guess what would happen. But what we know, of course, that Putin is a former KGB agent. And of course, he knows the techniques of conversations, which doesn't, have anything on the real intentions. They don't match what he promises and what he does. It's just two different realities. But of course, he has the means of persuasion that KGB agents have been taught to have. And of course, it's really important, again, the unity between the European partners, because Russia is the threat to European continents. That's been acknowledged by many, many countries, meaning that Ukraine is part of the security architecture of this continent, and the fate of Ukraine will influence all of the countries on European continent. So I think this unity also is quite important. And remember that after Alaska, everyone was shocked, how you see the red carpet and blah, blah, blah. But then there was a meeting in Washington with all of the European leaders coming, saying that, no, we're going to stand by the normality. We're not buying that aggressor is walking out rewarded. So I think this path and this way also has an extreme influence on everything that will happen in the future weeks or months.
So what do you think that the European Union should do now, and EU partners for Ukraine, particularly after this meeting?
In the short term would be the agreement on the reparation loan, which is actually the next step. It's not confiscation, right? It's the next step of the use of the frozen assets. Basically, it's another loan that is financially secured by the assets that are in Brussels in Euroclear. And this solution can happen during the summit in Brussels, the EU Leaders Summit that will happen just a few days from today in Brussels.
And Yevheniia, I just want to ask you about that upcoming meeting between Trump and Putin in Hungary. What can we expect from that? Even though it may, of course, be hard to predict, but I mean, it's coming up pretty quickly. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Ukraine has a very bad reaction to anything that is connected with treaty, memorandum, and Budapest, because we remember the 1994 Budapest memorandum, after which we gave up the nukes and received a piece of paper as assurances of security guarantees. Russia signed it and attacked Ukraine in 2014, and then full-scale invasion in 2022. Again, it depends on the pressure that the civilized world can put on the dictator, on Putin, because if it's another possibility to show that he's not isolated and shake hands on the territory of European Union, which is quite, I think offensive for many European countries, then, there'll be nothing coming out of, in the terms of a real solution to this conflict, to this war of aggression.
And finally, Yevheniia, where does Ukraine go from here currently, where the situation stands?
Ukraine will go in any case, to survive this winter. We're securing our even more energy infrastructure, so any aid we can get from other countries to, to the energy, to getting the grid and the spare parts to repairment. But also we're going to adopt our budget next week. It has a lot of money. Everything we earn goes to the army and to the production of the weapons, and also we'll be developing the partnership with other countries. Also, some Ukrainian enterprises are opening first factories on the territories of EU. So yes, we'll do what we did. We'll fight.
Thank you so much, Yevheniia Kravchuk, for being with us here this morning on World Talks on TVP World, and for all your insight with us. And that's all for this edition of World Talks here on TVP World. I'm Skaya. Thanks for watching.